Previously on SpiderMan.
The Shocker is alive! Oh yeah, we totally looked at a bunch of older Spider-Man figures, from the chameleon black suit Spider-Man to the Prowler. Now, let's get into it. These are the rest. These are Wave 4 of the Toybiz Spider-Man the Animated Series. I can't wait to show you, especially this guy. And while I got all you web crawling web warriors here, I just want to say thanks so much for checking out my Retro-Shiz Spider-Man videos. Like, comment, subscribe, do all those great things. Got a heck of a lot more Toybiz action on the way. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. You came here to see Spider-Man the Animated Series, not Batman the Animated Series toys. And, well, Toybiz was like, hey, we lost the license for the Batman to Kenner, so let's just take advantage and make Spider-Man have some web glider wings. This is the Spider-Man web glider, and you know what? It works and it doesn't work. It's a very fun figure, but moreover, it was a great Spider-Man figure, even though, as you can see, right here, he had a couple holes in his side, which the web glider wings would pop into, and then right here on his legs. So while it was okay just to have a cool new Spider-Man with some Batman powers, essentially, it was a lot of fun. He's gotten thoroughly scratched up. This guy has fallen over more times than I'd like to recount. It's a really fun, memorable figure. It is a Batman Spider-Man. So his gimmick was basically that you would take this backpack and it would just fix to his back just like this, fit in there, and it was nice and snug. Now, over the years of playing with this guy, the little string came loose. It didn't break, but as you can see, this one is tied quite securely. So when I pulled it one day, it came right off of this and got sucked up in the backpack. So essentially, I'd have to crack open this backpack. But what you would do is you'd pull on one end, and this would go to the back end right here, and then you'd pull it again, and it would be like he's traveling up, just like that. So nice little gimmick, nice fun Batwing looking Spider-Man. Batman Returns probably comes from that. 89 now, it wasn't too far off, but an interesting Spider-Man, a fun Spider-Man, and it was just a very tongue-in-cheek nod to another superhero. Now, who knew that Venom was going to be as popular as a character as he was, especially in the Spider-Man the Animated Series? Probably had nothing to do with them always showing him off. He would throw out his tongue, and old Venom would be like, yo, remember me? I'm only going to get about 3 episodes total in this entire show. Yeah, go figure. Anyways, this fine fellow right here is Venom 2, Roman numerals, basically the sequel to Venom 1 from the very first wave of Spider-Man the Animated Series. And also, don't get him too confused with this Stealth Venom from a later wave, which we'll be looking at shortly. Venom 2, however, he was the Venom that I went with, the Venom that really stuck out and was my Venom from ever since I stopped collecting the line way back in the day when it finally wrapped up. This was a fine Venom, not a lot of articulation, but I'll show you the gimmick in just a second. That's what made it so much fun. Now, he came with a reused accessory, and another one where I was like, okay, like why are we doing this? He basically got prowlered in a sense of, both these accessories come from very first iterations of Toybiz figures, and what you would do is you'd take old Venom 2 right here, and basically it's like a bulletproof symbiote vest. It's supposed to be like the symbiote, you know, making all kinds of goo noises and blocking bullets or Spider-Man's punch. I don't know. It wasn't that exciting. I mean, from the back, it kind of gives like those symbiotic entrails, but he did have some interesting sculpts on him. He had veins every which way on the hands. Finally had the dot on his hands. That's very good as well. Nicely painted, and I've kept him relatively nice over the years. Little veins and such, nice little details. Articulation, his head was on a rotation. Arms went up and down, nothing at the elbows, kicked out, and he had knees. Now, his gimmick, besides this amazing bulletproof vest thing, is that this was a squishy head that you could in fact take off, and you got Flat Top himself, Eddie Brock, looking all Eddie Brockish. Very tiny head, very spider side-ish, but hey, you know what? This Venom mask, that was very cool. Just, you know, just like in the movie Mask, and literally he becomes Venom again. It's really cool that they did that. I loved taking the mask on and off as a kid. It was non-stop. I'm amazed the mask held up as well as it did. Very fun figure, odd accessory, showing that reuse, it's been a thing forever and ever, as long as there's been toys. Awesome figure, highly recommend Venom 2. Nope, you're not seeing things. The final member of our Insidious 6 from the Spider-Man the Animated Series, Mysterio, finally made his action figure debut for the animated show. And yes, there was a variant and then also a giant-sized Mysterio. Let me just bring the camera back so you can see that. Yeah, this Mysterio was a lot of fun, and oftentimes I would get the larger figures because it often added in, stuff you'd see in comic books and TV shows, giant Mysterio going after Spider-Man. So when I came across this Mysterio in stores, which was the other figure when I got the Prowler, I was finally going to be able to complete the team of villains. I was so excited. It wasn't until very many years later I was at a swap meet and I found this guy. Now this guy, growing up, you didn't have any information to know, much like the lizard with the red shirt and a couple other variants here and there for the animated series. But I got him. He was like 50 cents. I got him home and I was like, sure enough, I'm like, yeah, I knew it. He was a light. This was the accurate color. And this was more like comic book color almost. He had a gimmick where you would have this article right here, and then you would just turn him around. He had this giant hole in his back. You fill this thing with water. You push it into his back and squeeze, and water and vapor or something else would come out of his eye nipples. But that didn't detract from this Mysterio being quite a great figure. He had nice shading on the dome of his head. The purple, the green, he matched the animated series quite well. Very ripped, very bulky Mysterio for that show. He had articulation at the shoulders, at the elbows, kicked out, and he had knees. One thing, though, that was cumbersome was that his cape would constantly come off, and it was, oh my God, it was annoying. Same with this guy, overall, same articulation. Nothing is different. Same exact gimmick, of course, but just different color scheme. So interesting to see, interesting to have. Can't have enough Mysterios. And then, of course, let's bring the camera up to see this big boy right here. This Mysterio was a little different in that he didn't have the effect where the water would shoot out, but he didn't have painted eyes either. He just had circles. But moreover, basically, he was just a 10-inch version of these 5-inch figures. Nothing really that different, but man, when you had them all together and you had a Spider-Man figure, something like that going on, he just looked so great, so grand, and what a display piece for the Spider-Man the Animated Series collection. So that is going to wrap things up for my Retro-Shiz look at the Toybiz Spider-Man the Animated Series Wave 4, from Prowler to Mysterios to Venom to the symbiote Spider-Man, us regular Spider-Man, and a chameleon. This wave was a pretty solid wave, I have to say. There was a couple weirdo things, symbiote Spider-Man, but it was just an overall great wave. Now, if you're probably wondering, well, hey, wait, wasn't there one more Spider-Man somewhere in there? And the answer is yes, and it was one of those weird things where it wasn't really listed on the back of card backs. It was the Night Shadow Spider-Man, and it's one of those figures where I never picked it up. I had enough Spider-Man. I always saw it, but in kind of redoing research and stuff, I noticed he was never on the back of any of the cards. I don't even think he's on the back of his own card, which is interesting, but he is included in the Wave 4. It will be one of those figures that once I'm done with looking at every single figure that I've had and owned from the animated series, I'll go back and fill in those gaps. And like I said prior, most of the ones that I am missing are just Spider-Man related. They're all, Mystical Spider-Man and Blue Ice Spider-Man and Pop-Tart Spider-Man and all that really weird stuff like Batman Spider-Man. And then one more that has to do more with the symbiote Spider-Man. There was kind of a variant that was released in a FAO Schwartz exclusive box set called Strange Transformations, and it included a Cosmic Spider-Man and then the Symbiotic Spider-Man, more when the costume is sort of taking over his red and blues. So I do own those figures, and we will be looking at those separately. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. Any favorite figures, any nostalgia coming up, rise into the tip top, want to talk about it, let's talk some toys. As always, drink some great coffee, eat some great food, but most importantly, get ready for next week. Just saying, something a little bit different, but still in the vein of Spider-Man the Animated Series. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And when you do, let me know what you found. I'll talk to you guys soon. Adios.